Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. So this was from about a month ago. I saw a rainbow from the temple lot and also from the Independence Visitor Center. It was an amazing night. We were just in the right place at the right time to see this rainbow at full intensity, although, of course, it doesn't show up so much on the video. And so the question is, since I've seen a rainbow, since maybe you have seen a rainbow this year, do we have the assurance that the second coming is not going to happen this year? Because hopefully you know about the Joseph Smith rainbow prophecy. And actually, my friend Troy with the Last Dispensation channel, please make sure to subscribe to him. If you like my content, I think you'll like his too. He did a video around that same time, I think, like around the 4th of July, about the rainbow prophecy. We talked on the phone, and I decided it's time for me to revisit this. I actually have a separate spreadsheet for this prophecy, as you're about to see why in just a minute. And actually, Troy, the plan right now is he's going to be coming to visit me here in Independence, probably like in October, and we're going to do a joint video. He says that he has a friend that knows where Joseph Smith was arrested, like he knows the location. So we're going to go see that together and then just have a good time. Okay, so here is my spreadsheet. It's one of the older spreadsheets, I think. You know, when you first start a channel like this, or at least in my case, when I first started this channel, you start looking into the second coming. You have the feeling that it's sooner than later, and then there's no end to the number of people that want to tell you that it can't happen now, it can't happen anytime soon. What about this? What about that? And one of those things is the rainbow prophecy. Now, I haven't seen this in the comments for a while. Again, like I said in a recent video, I don't know if it's because those people just don't watch my channel anymore, or they know that it's just, there's no point in leaving those comments. But I put together this spreadsheet where I found all the accounts that talk about seed time and harvest and the rainbow. So I have them color coded here, okay, in rainbow in rainbow colors. And you can find most of these on the Joe Smith Papers website. And that's where we're going to read them from, with the exception of one or two of these. Okay, so we'll just start with this first one. Okay. So Joe Smith Papers, Discourse, the 10th of March, 1844, as reported by Thomas Bullock. So here's our first account. He says, the rainbow is a sign for seed time and harvest when the rainbow is not to be seen. It is a sign of the commencement of famine and pestilence, etc., in that the coming of the Messiah is not far distant. The Messiah will not come this year. Upsets Millerites. The Messiah will not come for 40 years. He told the people to write it, a very large and attentive congregation. Now, this is new to me and my channel, the concept of this year, because I realized that there's one of these accounts that may have gotten confused about the rainbow and the year it appears and this whole thing that has to do with the Millerites. Don't worry, I'll explain it clearly. So next, what we have to do, who is this referring to, the Millerites? Okay, so we've talked about this before. This is in reference to William Miller. On the Wikipedia page, it says he was an American clergyman who is credited with beginning the mid-19th century North American religious movement known as Millerism. As his proclamation of the Second Coming did not occur as expected in the 1840s, new heirs of his message emerged, including the Advent Christians, 1860, the Seventh-day Adventists, 1863, and other Adventist movements. Okay, now when you go down here, again, I'm not a fan of these type of things. He came up with this timeline using all the literal measurements of time that are mentioned in the book of Revelation and Daniel and all that stuff. This is not my way of thinking. I think sometimes some of these numbers can be literal, but but I think a lot of them are symbolic. But people try and piece together these complicated timelines that end up looking like this. That's what he did. Okay. It says from 1840 onwards, Millerism was transformed into an obscure regional movement into a national campaign. The key figure in this transformation was Joshua von Himes, the pastor of Carden Street Chapel in Boston, Massachusetts, and an able and experienced publisher. Though Himes did not fully accept Miller's ideas until 1842, he established the fortnightly paper Signs of the Times on February 28, 1840, to publicize them. Despite the urging of his supporters, Miller never personally set an exact date for the exact Second Advent. However, in response to their urgings, he did narrow the time period to sometime in the Jewish year beginning in the Gregorian year 1843, stating, quote, "My principles in brief are that Jesus Christ will come again to this earth, cleanse, purify, and take possession of the same with all the saints sometime between March 21st, 1843 and March 21st, 1844. So here it is. This is what caused all the excitement, I guess, nationwide. If YouTube would have been around back then and I was there, I'd be receiving emails from people. Oh, Jared, did you hear about Brother Miller? Yeah, he's not a member of the church, but he's narrowed it down to a 1-year window of time. It's based on the Jewish calendar and da 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 da. And I'm sorry, you guys, I am a member. Okay. I do not look to outside pastors, Christians, or even Jews for predictions, or prophecies or anything like that outside of like the scriptures. I do look and see if things seem to be signs to them, Jews, Christians, Muslims, whatever. But if they're making predictions, coming up with calculations, they're interpreting scripture, I do not care almost one bit. Okay, continuing. March 21st, 1844 passed without incident, and further discussion and study resulted in the brief adoption of a new date, April 18th, 1844, based on the Karaite calendar as opposed to the rabbinic calendar. And that's another thing that bothers me is all these like different calendars outside of the Hebrew calendar and our calendar. Like the previous day, April 18th passed without Christ's return. Miller responded publicly, writing, quote, "I confess my error and acknowledge my disappointment, yet I still believe that the day of the Lord is near, even at the door," end quote. The next section is called The Great Disappointment. After the failure of Miller's expectations on October 22nd, 1844, the date became known as the Millerites' Great Disappointment. Hiram Edson recorded that, quote, "Our fondest hopes and expectations were blasted, and such a spirit of weeping came over us as I never experienced before. I wept and wept till the day dawned." That's sad. And then it has the different things, the fallout from the Great Disappointment. Okay, so going back here, let's bring it back full circle. So you have this prophecy of Joseph Smith that has to do with the rainbow and how the disappearance of the rainbow is the commencement of famine, pestilence, etc. And then immediately after that, he talks about the fact that Father Miller is wrong about this wildly popular prediction and timeline that he put together. Joseph Smith says he will not come this year, meaning 1843, 1844. Well, at this point, 1844, because that's when the discourse was given. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. This is reported by Franklin D. Richards. This is short. "A revelation, so long as we see the bow in the cloud, seed time and harvest shall continue. That year when the bow shall cease, then shall come famine, wars, etc. After which the sign of the Son of Man shall be seen in heaven." Okay. So my question there is, under questions and observations, column H, the rainbow ensures seed time and harvest that year. When the rainbow when the rainbow ceases, then comes famine, wars, etc. And after that, as the quote says, and after that, which how long? Same year, next year, years later, the sign of the Son of Man shall be seen. So that's a question I have about this quote. This quote says it'll disappear. It commences famines, wars, etc. But we don't know how long after that um, we'll see the sign of the Son of Man, which, from what I've observed and studied, it seems like that's the same thing as Christ's final appearance to the world. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is reported by Willard Richards. The Savior will not come this year, nor 40 year to come. Okay, so this is in reference to Father Miller and his prediction. And for some reason, Willard Richards records that first and then the rainbow prophecy after that. So when you look at the other accounts of this discourse, this is in reverse order. Okay. And I think that's important to note because there's one by President Wilford Woodruff where I don't know if he's conflating the two things. Like maybe he was taking notes really quickly and he got the Father Miller part mixed in with the rainbow prophecy because they're both talking about years. Joe Smith says, no, Father Miller's wrong. It's not going to happen this year. But in the year that you see the rainbow disappear, that's going to start calamities and da-da-da. You see what I'm saying? So here we have it in reverse order. The Savior will not come this year in response to Father Miller, nor 40 years to come. The bow has been seen in the cloud, and in that year that the bow is seen and in that year that the bow is seen, seed time and harvest will be. But when the bow ceases to be seen, look out for famine. So, okay. This one does not say explicitly the second coming will not happen when you see the rainbow, just simply it's a year when there's going to be seed time and harvest. But when it goes, look out for famine. All right. Let's see. The next one is this green one. Now, so the order in which I'm reading this is more or less the year in which these things were like published or written down. So these three that we've read so far, 1844. And then we have this from 1938. This is Joseph Fielding Smith in Scriptural Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith. And you can find this in the Scripture Citation Index. This is page 305. The Lord deals with this people as a tender parent with a child, communicating light and intelligence and the knowledge of his ways as they can bear it. The inhabitants of the earth are asleep. They know not the day of their visitation. The Lord hath set the bow in the cloud for a sign, that while it shall be seen, seed time and harvest, summer and winter shall not fail. But when it shall disappear, woe to that generation. For behold, the end cometh quickly. And again, we don't know what quickly means. Is it the same year? Like we don't see the rainbow that year and then the second coming happens? Or is it withdrawn for a year and then 10 years go by and then it happens, or 5 years? Let's go back to the spreadsheet. One of my observations with this one is a generation implies it could be a long time after the rainbow disappears when the second coming will occur. So that's a question that I have about the prophecy. So think about it like this. I did a search on Grok. Was there ever a year in which a rainbow was not observed since 1844? And I already knew the answer to this, but let me just show you what it said. Sorry, this might be a little bit hard to read. Systematic weather records from the mid-18th century onward, such as those from the UK Met Office, established in 1854, does not specifically track rainbow sightings, as they're not meteorological data points like temperature or rainfall. So this is something to maybe think about. Okay, because if this prophecy just means that it's the commencement of famine and calamities and wars, who's to say that um, the rainbow was or was not seen in 1845, 1846, 1847? Who's tracking that? What report can you go to that will tell you, oh, nope, there was definitely a rainbow in 1847? Nobody knows. You know, you have to wonder, if there were no rainbows, would there be any like really astute person in the world that would be like, you know what? I have not seen a rainbow this year. The world has to know. I need to publish this. I don't think that's going to happen. So, what if this already occurred? And we've seen famine, we've seen pestilence, we've seen calamities, we've seen wars since 84. We've had two world wars, we've had a Cold War, we've had these record breaking events. I don't know if earthquakes, but we've had large earthquakes, including this recent one near Russia. We've had these gigantic tsunamis. We've had record-breaking wildfires. So, do you see what I mean? But there's more. Let's continue. Okay, so the next one, this is somebody from 1844, but I found this in a book that was published in 1965. Okay, so let's go to that. Wait, hold on. John S. Fulmer. But then it's also here on the Joe Smith papers. Okay. While inquiring of the Lord concerning the end of time, it was made known to him by the Holy Spirit that there should be prosperity, seed time, and harvest every year in which the rainbow was seen. For to that was Noah referred as a surety on this subject. But in the year when the bow was not to be seen, would commence desolation, calamity, and distress among the nations, without seed time or harvest. In that the revelation of the Son of Man from heaven would not be in this year nor the next. And he would say to his Millerite friends that it would not be in 40 years to come. He uttered all this in the name of the Lord and said, we should go home and write it. So again, you see how if you're taking notes during this discourse really quickly in your journal or whatever, you may conflate the two things. He talks about not seeing the rainbow in that commencing desolation, calamity, and distress among nations. And then immediately after that, he talks about the Millerites and how, no, it's not going to be in this year. And it's not going to be in 1845 either. And it's not going to be in 40 years. You see where I'm going with this? Okay, the next one. Okay, this is James Burgess. And this is also, no, this is Wilford Woodruff. This is also the Joe Smith Papers project or website. Revelation given through Joe Smith in answer to a certain question. Son of man, if you live until you are 85 years of age, you shall see the face of the Son of Man. And so long as you see the rainbow stretching across the heavens, there will be seed time and harvest, and the Son of Man will come, and the Son of Man will not come that year. So this one is a little bit more ambiguous. If you only read this account, you would say, oh, okay, yeah. So the Son of Man is not going to come that year that you see the rainbow. But what if James Burgess was taking really quick notes and put the two together, the Millerites and the rainbow thing? Or what if he did hear clearly, but have you ever written notes before and you're writing it really fast and it makes sense to you in the moment as you're writing those notes, but then later on you revisit those notes or somebody else reads your notes and then it's unclear because they don't know your thought process as you were writing the notes. And then maybe you forget your thought process as you were writing the notes and you're like, what the heck did I just write? What am I trying to say here? You guys, I've had that experience. So I don't know. This one could be referring to no rainbow, then the second coming can happen. If there is a rainbow, no, it can't happen that year. So this one's ambiguous, in my opinion. And so That's why I put a question mark right here. So up until this point, in column G, Christ will not come the year the rainbow is seen. No, 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 no. As in, like, it doesn't say that per se. For this one, James Burgess, question mark. It's ambiguous. Don't know if he's referencing the Millerites or the rainbow prophecy. Okay, now we get to the one that is probably the best, oh my gosh. This is the one that's probably the best known. Okay. This one is the account taken down by Wilford Woodruff. And this is one that has been referenced and quoted time and time again. And you can see them here on these rows 14 to 19. So I have the original and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other references to the original. So the original is from Wilford Woodruff. You can also find it in History of the Church. You can also find it in History of Joseph Smith. You can also find it in Scriptural Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith. You can also find it in the published, I don't know why I have this separately because this is the same thing, but the published History of the Church, Volume 6. And then Elder Bruce R. McConkie quotes it in his book called The Millennial Messiah. So for this reason, I have to take seriously the possibility that it really does mean if you see a rainbow this year, the second coming is not going to happen. But I have a bunch of questions about that right here that we'll go over in just a minute. So first, let's go ahead and read the Wilford Woodruff account. It says, I have asked the Lord concerning his coming, and while asking, the Lord gave me a sign and said, in the days of Noah, I set a bow in the heavens as a sign and token that in any year that the bow should be seen, the Lord would not come. So right here, this is clear. This is explicit. In any year that the bow should be seen, the Lord would not come. Let's go back to this temple lot video. Well, I've seen it. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen one too. All right. But there should be seed time and harvest during that year. But when you see the bow withdraw, it shall be a token that there shall be famine, pestilence, and great distress among the nations. But I take the responsibility upon myself to prophesy in the name of the Lord that Christ will not come this year, as William Miller has prophesied, for we have seen the bow. Okay, so now we have two very clear statements saying that in the year that you see a rainbow, the second coming will not happen. And the assumption is that it's in reference to like the final appearance. And that is an assumption. Okay. And with this one, he's tying in the concept of seeing a rainbow that year with the William Miller prophecy or timeline or whatever. Continuing. And I also prophesy in the name of the Lord that Christ will not come in 40 years. And if God ever spake by my mouth, he will not come in that length of time. And Jesus Christ never did reveal to any man the precise time he would come. Go and read the scriptures, and you cannot find anything that specifies the exact, I guess there's like a typo here. This is how it's written in the journal though. You cannot find anything that specifies the exact he would come, and all that say so are false teachers. Okay. So this one is the most solid quote that substantiates the idea that if you see a rainbow in a year, that the Lord will not come. And we're assuming that that means the final appearance. Now, we're going to look at, let's do Bruce R. McConkie's, and then we'll wrap this up with the questions that I have over here. This one, we're just going to read it from the spreadsheet. It's just easier. So he talks at this part of the book a lot about the rainbow and the earth itself as it was before the flood, and the covenant that the Lord made with Enoch and with Noah in regards to the rainbow. It's much deeper than you think. I'm not going to read this whole thing, But you can come and access my spreadsheets anytime. The link is in the description box of each video. This spreadsheet is called Quotes Rainbow Prophecy. And you can also just pause and you can read it, at least the parts that I show here. I'm going to skip down to the second paragraph. Seed time and harvest, in the sense of one season following another, exists because the axis of the earth is tilted 23.5 degrees from the upright. This is the reason we have summer and winter, spring and fall. The first reference in the scriptures to seasons, as we know them, is in connection with the flood of Noah. There's a presumption that prior to the flood, there were no seasons because the axis of the earth was upright. And a similar presumption that when the millennium comes and the earth returns to its original paradisiacal state, once again, the seasons as we know them will cease, in that seed time and harvest will go on concurrently at all times. The whole earth at all times will be a garden as it was in the days of Eden. He goes on to talk about the rainbow and how, we don't hear about the rainbow before this point, before Noah, and the Lord talking to him about the rainbow. Later on, Elder Bruce R. McConkie quotes from the Wilford Woodruff record of this prophecy. So it would seem that he considers that valid. Although I do have to wonder one thing. I don't know that Elder McConkie or others would have had access to these other quotes until the Joe Smith Papers project. Because before the Joe Smith Papers project, these things were scattered all over the place. There were some large compilations, like the Scriptural Teachings right here, Scriptural Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, compiled by Joseph Fielding Smith. So you had some attempts to consolidate all of them. Another one is History of the Church. But some of these other ones, I don't think he would have had access to, and I feel like you have to take the whole thing together. Now, I am perfectly fine being unsure about it. It does carry weight with me that you have Wilford Woodruff, who became president of the church, and then it's being repeated by Joseph Fielding Smith, George Albert Smith, and Bruce R. McConkie. That carries weight with me, but I just wonder if they were aware of these other accounts where the rainbow is not necessarily tied with the year that Christ comes, but more with the commencement of famine, pestilence, and whatever. So anyway, if the Wilford Woodruff account is correct, if that's the most correct one, these are the questions that I have. The first one, who is it that has to see the rainbow? The world? So it's like if one person in Australia or Japan or Africa or India, if one person sees a rainbow, does that mean that the second coming will not happen that year? Or is it narrowed down to members of the church? Is it narrowed down to Utah? Is it narrowed down to the president of the church? Is it an individual or a member of a group? Is it just from church headquarters? Because, I'm sure the Lord gives President Nelson signs, signs like this. He obviously receives revelation, like personal revelation. He also receives special types of revelation, but I wonder if there's signs of this nature that would be mostly intended for the president of the church. So in Salt Lake City or wherever the prophet goes, if he doesn't see a rainbow, maybe that's a sign to him. That's something that we don't really know. I don't know. Who's the intended audience? The entire world, one person, the church, or what? The next question is, when we're talking about a year, what calendar year is being referred to? Our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, or the Hebrew calendar, or just simply a 12-month period? So say from August to August of next year, if we don't see a rainbow, would that be the fulfillment of this? Which calendar? Who knows? So that's why when people are like, oh, sorry, if I were to be like, oh, sorry, I saw a rainbow from the temple lot. Well, what if the calendar starts the next day? You know, what if the very next day until 12 months later, a full year goes by, a full 12 months, and there's no rainbow? Does it have to start on January 1st? And one of the problems that I have with this is it doesn't seem right that you can like go outside, you see a rainbow, especially like if you're somebody that has spiritual work to do, like you're not right with the Lord, you don't have a temple recommend, you're not on the covenant path. It doesn't seem right to me that a person like that would see a rainbow and then have the assurance that, oh, phew, I don't got to worry about it at least for another year. I'm good. That doesn't seem right. I could be wrong. Um, and then the next question, was Joe Smith referring to the fact that signs of the times, such as famine, pestilence, and great distress among nations, had not yet occurred in 1844, but that the disappearing of the rainbow will precede those things? There, and I said this earlier, but has there already been a year without rainbows since 1844? I'm going to add to that. Um, how would we know? There are no official records of rainbow sightings. And then we've already seen famine, pestilence, and great distress among the nations. Think of the American Civil War, World War I, World War II, Cold War, etc. We have some wars raging right now, Ukraine and Israel. And then with the Bruce R. McConkie quote, my question is the Great Earthquake rearranging the continents and correct, I worded this weird. Is the Great Earthquake going to be the thing that causes the rainbow to disappear? There's going to be a great earthquake, and he suggests, and he does say that it's speculation, but he suggests that it's the great earthquake that's going to bring the continents together, that's going to potentially correct the tilt of the earth. Is that what's going to make the rainbow disappear? I don't know. It seems to me, from what I've studied, that when Christ comes to the Mount of Olives, that's when the great earthquake happens. But I don't know. Maybe there could be, maybe there's other great earthquakes. Maybe there's like a preliminary one that corrects the tilt of the earth. 12 years. Oh my gosh, 12 years. 12 months before Christ comes to the Mount of Olives. So I feel like with a lot of these things, we have to be okay with ambiguity and, in not having a precise answer. Because some of this would suggest if you have all these people and they don't mention that this thing about, okay, if we haven't seen a rainbow, then Christ will come. You would think that all of them would definitely write that down because that's big news. Hearing that for the first time, oh, there's a rainbow this year and the second coming is not going to happen. That's big news. You'd think that they would all write that down for sure, but they didn't. And how many do I have here? 1, 2, 3, not this one, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I have 6 accounts from people that were actually there, that actually heard the discourse. And only one of them, Wilford Woodruff, was the only one that for sure clearly thought that Joe Smith said, if there's a rainbow, no second coming. If there's not a rainbow, then it could happen. He's the only one. James Burgess, it's questionable. It's a little bit ambiguous. The other ones, no. The other 4, no. So make of that what you will. And lastly, I just want to point this out. Oh, I really wanted that picture to be, okay. It was here when I first clicked into this, but last year, February 8th, 2024, and this is being reported by Haaretz, which is a very secular news outlet in Israel. But they took note of an ultra rare white rainbow that was spotted in northern Israel. I think that's interesting. I did a video about it right here. Here's kind of a picture you can see about it. I can't remember everything that happened, so you may want to watch this video next. I'll put a link for it in the description box below. It's only 17 minutes. But I had not put that yet on my spreadsheet called signs Jewish specific. This is potentially a sign to Jews. For heaven's sake, it made it into Haaretz. They thought it was noteworthy. Even if they were secular, and then if you're religious, think how much more special this might be as they're anticipating Messiah. So that's why I put it on this spreadsheet, and I'm kind of surprised that I didn't already have it on there. So, okay, well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.